Ellen McLain had a rule, and she had never broken it. 3 men had gotten down on one knee in front of her over the years, and 3 times she had said no, gently but without hesitation. It wasn't that she didn't believe in love. It was that she didn't believe in promises. Her father had made 100 of them to her mother before he left one rainy October morning and never came back. And Ellen had grown up watching her mother wait by a window that never brought anyone home. She had promised herself at 11 years old, sitting on the stairs listening to her mother cry, that she would never build her life around a promise someone else could break. By the time she was 34, Ellen ran a small bakery on the corner of 5th and Larkspur in a quiet Ohio town. The kind of place where the bell above the door rang the same way every single morning and the regulars knew exactly which pastry they wanted before they even stepped inside. She liked that kind of certainty. Bread rose the same way every time you gave it the right conditions. People did not. Michael Murphy was not a regular. He walked into her bakery on a Tuesday in early March with a camera bag slung over one shoulder and rain still clinging to his jacket, and he ordered a black coffee and a cinnamon roll like he had done it 100 times before. Even though Ellen had never seen his face in her life, he sat by the window for 3 hours, editing photos on a laptop that had a cracked corner, and when he finally packed up to leave, he paused at the counter and said, "This is the best cinnamon roll I've had in 4 states." "We only serve one state," Ellen said, wiping down the counter. "This one." "Then it's the best in one state too," he said, and left a $5 tip on a $4 roll. And Ellen thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. He came back the next day, and the day after that. By the end of the 2nd week, he had a seat. Not officially. But the corner table by the window had become his, and Ellen had stopped bothering to ask what he wanted because she already knew. He was a photographer, freelance, chasing assignments across the country for magazines that paid him just enough to keep driving. He had grown up outside Nashville, he told her once, the kind of restless kid who used to climb onto his neighbor's roof just to see the skyline lit up at night, and he had never really stopped climbing toward higher places since. Ellen liked him. That was the problem. She liked the way he laughed with his whole chest, the way he remembered that she took her tea with just a little honey, the way he asked about her day like the answer actually mattered to him. But liking him made her nervous in a way she hadn't felt in years, because liking someone was always the first step toward trusting them, and trusting them was always the first step toward getting hurt. It was in April, on a night when the bakery had closed early because of a spring storm rolling through, that Michael asked her something no one had ever asked her before. They were sitting on the back steps of the shop, watching the rain come down in sheets, and he turned to her with that easy, unhurried way he had and said, "I'm not going to ask you to marry me." Ellen laughed, surprised. "That's a relief. I've had enough of that particular question." "I know," he said. "I heard about the 3 proposals. Small town." He smiled, but there was something more careful underneath it. "I'm not asking for forever, Ellen. I know forever scares you. I'm asking for 30 days. She turned to look at him fully now. 30 days for what? 30 days where you let yourself actually try. No promises, no rings, no kneeling on one knee in front of the whole bakery. Just 30 days of showing up, the way I've been showing up every day since March. And at the end of it, if you want to walk away, I'll never bring it up again. I'll finish my assignment here and I'll go, and you'll never have to explain yourself to me." He paused. "But if it works, if even one small part of you believes it could work, you tell me, and we figure out the rest together, slowly, on your terms." It should have been an easy no. Ellen had built an entire life on easy no's. But something about the way he asked, not for eternity, not for a vow she couldn't verify, just for 30 ordinary days she could watch unfold in front of her own eyes, made the refusal stick in her throat. "Why 30 days?" she asked. "Because it's long enough to know if something's real," Michael said, "and short enough that it isn't a promise. It's just proof. You don't have to believe me. You just have to watch." Ellen said yes before she had fully decided to, the word slipping out ahead of her better judgment, and that was how the 30 days began. The first week was easy in the way that early things always are. Michael showed up every morning at 6 before the bakery opened, and helped her carry flour sacks, and from the delivery truck even, though his back clearly wasn't built for it, and complained the whole time in a way that made her laugh instead of feel burdened. He photographed the bakery for a spread he was working on, city bakeries that had survived changing neighborhoods, and Ellen watched him work with a kind of quiet intensity that made her forget, for whole minutes at a time, to be afraid of him. The second week things got harder, the way real things do once the shine wears down to something more ordinary. Michael got a call from an editor pushing back on his deadline, and he snapped at Ellen over something small and unimportant. She'd moved his laptop off the counter to wipe up a spill, and immediately looked horrified at himself. "I'm sorry," he said. "That wasn't about you." And instead of retreating the way She always had before. Ellen found herself saying, "I know, but you still owe me an apology, not an explanation." And he nodded and gave her both. And something about the exchange, the friction of it, the fact that they had disagreed and survived it, made her trust him a fraction more instead of less. By the third week, Ellen had started keeping a small mental list, almost against her will, of every way Michael had shown up without being asked. He fixed the bakery's flickering sign without being asked. He learned the names of her regular customers within days. He noticed when she was tired before she said anything, and made her sit while he closed up instead. None of it was dramatic. None of it looked like the grand gestures her exes had made, the expensive rings, the public proposals meant to make refusal humiliating. It just looked like a person quietly, consistently, doing the thing he said he would do. Then, on the 22nd day, everything nearly fell apart. Michael's editor called again, this time with an offer. A 6-month assignment in Southeast Asia, the kind of career-defining opportunity photographers waited a lifetime for. He told Ellen about it that night, sitting in the same spot on the back steps where it had all started. And she felt the old fear rise up in her chest like floodwater finding a crack in a dam. Here it was, she thought. The moment where he leaves, the way they always leave, and I will have let myself believe for 22 days that this time would be different. "I'm not taking it," Michael said before she could say anything. "I already told them no." "Why?" Ellen's voice came out sharper than she intended. Defensive even in the face of good news, because she didn't trust good news either. "You should take it. That's your career, Michael. I'm not going to be the reason you give up something like that." "You're not the reason I'm giving it up," he said. "You're the reason I don't want to." "There's a difference. I spent 10 years chasing the next assignment, the next skyline, the next thing that would make me feel like I'd arrived somewhere. I climbed onto roofs as a kid because I thought if I just got high enough, I'd finally see the whole picture, the whole point of everything. I never did. Not until I sat in your bakery eating a cinnamon roll on a Tuesday. I wasn't even supposed to be in town for." He took her hand carefully, like he was asking permission with his fingers before his words caught up. "You asked me why 30 days back in April. Here's the truth I didn't say then. I didn't pick 30 days because it was safe for you. I picked it because I already knew, and I needed enough time to prove it to someone who'd been taught not to believe anybody." Ellen sat with that for a long moment, the rain long gone now, the sky clear and star-scattered above the bakery's back alley. She thought about her mother at the window. She thought about 3 men on one knee, offering forever like it was something they could actually guarantee, and how empty those grand words had always felt compared to 22 ordinary days of a man, quietly fixing a sign and remembering how she took her tea. "You didn't ask me to marry you," she finally said. "I told you I wouldn't." "I know, I'm just realizing I wish you had." She laughed, half at herself, disbelieving the words coming out of her own mouth. "I spent my whole life terrified of a promise, and I think what actually scared me wasn't the promise itself. It was that I never trusted anyone enough to believe they'd keep it. I don't know when that changed. Maybe it was the flour sacks. Maybe it was the apology. Maybe it was tonight." She turned to face him fully. "But I believe you'd keep it, Michael. That's the difference. I believe you." They didn't get married that night or that month or even that year. Ellen was still Ellen. After all, and old fears don't dissolve completely just because one person proves trustworthy. But 2 years later, on a rooftop overlooking a city skyline strung with lights that, Michael said, reminded him of the ones he used to climb toward as a boy, he got down on one knee in front of a small gathering of the people who mattered most to both of them. And this time when he asked, Ellen didn't hear a promise she couldn't verify. She heard the sum of 1,000 small Tuesdays, each one proof laid quietly on top of the last. And she said yes before he even finished the question, the same way she'd said yes to 30 days on a rainy April night. Except this time there was no fear left underneath the word at all, only certainty, the kind she had spent her whole life waiting to feel, and had finally patiently been given.